going onward in a series of shiurim on the Sefer Das Halakim as an introduction to Chachmas Emes. In the previous year, we were holding on Daf Chaf Aleph in the Sefer, which describes the Oisher of Ak, and we explained about how the Oisher of Adam Kadmon being the first of the Olamais which are in the Malkum Panai, right, paralleling the Bechina of Ratzain, and how this is going to have two Bechinas. It will have a Bechina of Yosher, or lines, if you will, and a Bechina from Egulim, or circles. And we explained like this, because there's a Bechina of an Ein Sof, which Kaviyachal is infinite. That's outside the Malkum Panai. There's a Bechina of an Or Ein Sof, which Kaviyachal is in his Pashtus of this infinite, which l'chayr doesn't make much sense, but there's a hispashis of that. And then there's something called the Malkum Panai, which is a vacated space. All the olamais, by definition, are b'chinas gavul or b'mida, and they are in that vacated space. They are in that Malkum Panai. So how exactly does the infinite, which is the Or Ein Sof HaMakif, which surrounds this vacated space, relate to the olamais which are inside the Malkum Panai? And that's in two ways. One way is the edges, right, from the sides, because there is a bit of a seepage of ore, but that's only a minute fraction, 0.01%, as a mashal to say. The etzem way by which the Ein Sof or Ein Sof HaMakif connects with the Malkum Panai is something called the kav, which is basically like a pipeline of ore funneling in to the Malkum Panai. This kav is a bechina of the tachtain, right, of the Ein Sof. If you would say Kaviyachal, even though it's impossible to say tachtain elyon in terms of Ein Sof, but if you were to talk about the tachtain of that, then you would call that the kav. And then then this creates something in the Malkum Panai which we call Ak or Adam Kadmon, L'Kol HaKadumim. And again, just to state again, it's not Adam Rishon. What it is it's a structure by which will be a conduit that everything inside the Malkum Panai will be nitla in Adam Kadmon. In other words, let me give a basic mashal to explain the concept of Adam Kadmon, to try to understand it. In these forum, we talk about, the Arizal talks about something called partsufim, which we mentioned in passing yesterday. And what a partsuf is a shleimus, something which is something complete, as opposed to a sphera, which we described in the previous year, which is something which is only a prat. Now, let me explain. Imagine, let's say one wants to come from a Bechinas Elam to a Bechinas Giloi, which Kaviyachal is what HaKadosh Baruch Hu is doing here. He's coming from a Bechina of Elam, Kaviyachal, to a Bechina of Giloi, to be Megala himself. So imagine yourself, let's say you have a project, and you want to do something. I don't know, you want to build a house, let's say. So before anything, there's a Ratzain to build that house, or a will to build the house. And this will is what animates everything that comes after it. It's the will to create. Now, once after the will comes, after there's a Ratzain there, then there's a stage two. The stage two is the stage of the machshava, or the idea. The idea is the idea to have the house. But that idea has to be fleshed out, because just to say I want a house, well, what does that mean? How big should the house be? How small the house is going to be? Where are the rooms going to be? Where's the kitchen going to be? And all the myriad details that are associated with that. That's hirhor, or that would be the plan. So you understand that would be the plan of that idea, and that's working with the idea in tandem. These first three madregas that we've just mentioned, the madrega of Ratzain, or will, to have the house, the idea to have the house, which is noiled, the idea to have the house, which is noiled, the plan of the house. These all three are what we call the mayichin. They correspond to Keser, Chachma, and Bina. Or, in terms of the partsufim, we call them Arich, or Arich Amtim, Abba, and Ima. You don't have to get this all now, but just this is what these are the first three stages. Then the next stage is the actual construction of the house. And the construction of the house because now we're moving into something physical, because we're moving out of the conceptual. Because the truth is, even though you've gone to the architect, you with your idea, and with the architect you fleshed out the house, but all you have now at this point are plans, but you don't have a house yet. So for that you have to go to the contractor, and the contractor has to build that house for you. That would be step 4. Step 5 it's not really a step at all. What it is it's the grand total and the grand sum of all the other steps. It's when you, Baruch Hashem, are putting the mezuzah on the front door of that house. Now, which is the maskana, or the conclusion, the tachlis of all the other steps that came before it. It's the Saif Maisa, which was Machshava Techila. So in other words, like this. So we call stage 4, the stage of the building, we call that Zer Ampim, or sometimes Tiferes. That's the Ian of the building, and then the last stage we call that Malchus, and that's why we say the Malchus is Leis Dagar Me Klum, meaning that we always look at her as a Nekeva because she's a Makabel, and in this limud, a Nekeva is a feminine. It's always the Bechina of a Makabel, whereas masculine is always the Bechina of a Noisin or a giver, and she's been Makabel to everything that's come before it in order to make up that house and have that house now standing. So these are the 5 steps. We call these the 5 partsufim in every olam. They are, again, Arech, Abba, Ima, Zer Ampim, and Nukva de Zer Ampim. Okay? These 5 stages represent the Kut Shel Yud of the Shem Havaya, because within the Yud, and then the Yud, the Kei Rishona, the Vav, and the Kei Achrona. The reason, now, Keser, first of the stages, this is just a Ratzon, and it's only a little point, and from that point the Yud is made. The Yud is still Goylem, right? It doesn't have any Metzias, it's just a drop. But Sof Kol Sof, it has within it the ability to lengthen, and that's going to be the Hey Rishona, which will be a Makabel for that. That's the pshat, is that the idea, and you go with your idea to the architect, and the architect fleshes out that idea. So that's the Kutz Yud Kei. That would be the Keser, the Chachma, and the Bina. And then the Vav Kei, the second part of the Shem Havaya, that's going to be, the Vav is going to be the actualization, because the Vav is the lengthening of that Yud. Because the Chachma, the Koyach of the Chachma is in the Vav, which is the lengthening of the original Yud. And then the Heach Reina will be the actual Malchus, will be the actual house itself when it's built. Now, we haven't learned this yet, but there are something called 5 olamais. The olamais parallel these 5 partsufim. The 5 olamais are Adam Kadmon, the first one, which is what we're discussing now, the Olam HaAtzilus, the Olam HaBriya, the Olam HaYetzira, and the Olam HaAsiyah. Why they have these names and what their exact functions are is not really negaya to us at this moment. But what we should know is, and what is negaya to us, that Adam Kadmon, which is what we are discussing, the first of the olamais, which are in this Makom Planai, because remember, olamais cannot exist outside of the Makom Planai by definition. So Adam Kadmon, being the first of these olamais, acts as the Keser Klali from all the olamais, or it acts as the Ratzon of all the olamais. That's what we mean, that everything else within this Makom Planai will be hanging, if you will, or tali, on Adam Kadmon, because Adam Kadmon will be the will for all these olamais to exist. It's not the existence yet of them. It's still a Bechinas Ayin. It hasn't come to a Bechin of Yesh yet. But Sof Kol Sof, this is where it's coming to. This has got all the shortage of everything will be within this Adam Kadmon. So everything coming afterwards will be mushba from Adam Kadmon. So remember, let's just get it again. It comes out like this. You have this Bechina of the Kav, remember, which is the Tachton of the Alien, which is coming now down into the Makom Planai. You have something called Adam Kadmon, which is now going to be the biggest thing of all the Netzalim, because it's the biggest thing of all the created things. And that biggest thing of all the created things is Kaviochel, the manifestation of Hashem's will. Or Kaviochel, not a manifestation yet, but more Hashem's will. And then later he's going to manifest that will through the other elements, which are going to come after Adam Kadmon. Okay. With that said, now the Das Elokim is bringing the Lashon of the Rav to explain that there's 2 bechinas in Adam Kadmon, and by extension there's 2 bechinas in all elements. There's a bechina of Igulim and there's a bechina of Yosher. Now the bechinas of Igulim and the bechinas of Yosher work together. The Igul provides the Malkaim, if you will, or the place for the Yosher by which to operate. And the Yosher will be a bechina which is higher than the Igul, and the Yosher will be mashbiyah to the Igul. In fact, I think it makes sense at this point to go weiter in the Sefer, and we'll read a little bit weiter, and we'll understand more how exactly the Yosher of Adam Kadmon and the Igul of Adam Kadmon relate. But we have to know that those other elements that we discussed, like Mashal Atzilas and Bria, Yitzir, and Atziyah, they also have a Yosher, and they also have an Igul. Because definitionally, everything will have a Yosher, and everything will have an Igul in this Makom Planai. There will always be these 2 bechinas of Bria. So now, let's turn to page Chaf Gimel in the Sefer, because that's where we're up to, on top of the page. It says, V'da, Sha'oiris ha'igulim v'ha'yosher hanal, that these oiris are gulim and yosher that we spoke about, Shehema Iris are Rishonim, which are the first iris which are created in the Mokum Simsum, because remember, because Ak is bigger than anything else in the Mokum Simsum. Because remember, we explained previously that there are Eser Igulim from Keser till Malchus. They represent the Eser Iguli Ak, and then there's also Eser Spheres of Yosher of Ak, which correspond to Yamin, Merl, and Emsa. Shneim Chelke Kuma Achas Kololiasheim. Both of them come together. Right, the primordial Adam, if you will. Because this is the created before all the other Nimsoyim. And Adam, meaning the Adam Zalamata, meaning me and you, we are built on this template. This would be the spiritual plan by which we were built. And we are built in a way that we can, I guess lock ourselves into or tap into this Adam Kadmon. Now, of course, not going straight to Adam Kadmon, because there's all this Hosheh Shalos of the Olamais between us and Adam Kadmon. But Sof Kol Sof, that's the ultimate plan and blueprint of what Adam is. Because Sof Kol Sof, the whole point of this exercise called Ma'aseh Bereishis is in order to create the Adam, in order that Kadosh Baruch Hu should be Ma'idiyah himself and be Mahana, us. Now, Umebein Shtei HaBechinas, right, Shal Adam Kadmon, among the two bechinas of Adam Kadmon, the Egulim and the Yosher, Zeshin is Galab bechinas Egulim HaRishonim. The first comes the bechina of the Egulim, because first comes the Moakim. Va'achreha is Galab bechinas Yosher, and afterwards comes the bechina of Yosher. That's kind of like Lamashal, that the eagle of the Tzimtzum has to precede the Kav coming in. Now he's going to explain why that is. Tam Hadavar. Ki Egulim him bechinas Nefesh, Va'Yosher bechinas Ruach. The Egulim are bechinas Nefesh, and the Yosher are bechinas Ruach. Now, let me just finish this paragraph, and then I'll explain better, because we don't even know what Nefesh and Ruach are. We find in Adam Agashmi, down here, that from the time that he's born, he only has a bechina of Nefesh, the lowest level of his neshama. Then if he works for it, it's not automatically going to be given to him. He will be great. He'll be zeicha to a bechina of ruach. Right, and the truth is he can go up from that also, because he can go up to neshama and then high in the yechida. Same thing in Ak. First is Megula, the bechina of nefesh, which is the union of the Egulim. Which is the bechina of Yosher. Since this is B'Tzelem Elokim, meaning because it's Kaviocho bechinas Yosher, B'Mela it's greater than the Egulim. Now, let me explain to you what's going on here. Because first we have to define what nefesh and ruach are. We see that there are 5 halakim of the neshama, Naran Chai. It's actually it's actually merumis in the Gemara and Brachas and Daf Yud about the Hamishi Bracha Nafshi, the 5 times that David HaMelech was Mishabeach Kadosh Baruch Hu. It's connected these 5 different bechinas, and the truth is it's even mentioned in the Medrash Rabbah in Bereishis, right? The Naran Chai. So it's not just from the Svar HaKadoshim that we see this. There's these bechinas. They roughly in the Adam, and this is very rough. The nefesh, the lowest level, is what we call the nefesh Bahamas in many Sifrei Chasidus. What it is it's kind of like the living soul that everyone has. The ruach is basically they would be the emotions of the person. This would be like because that's connected where the heart is. In other words, the way we do it in the person is we say that the nefesh is connected, the bechin is covered, and the bechin is, and they connected the intestines and the kishka, right, and the veshet, which is the food pipe. These are the more animalistic type things. This is something that a person would share with all living creatures. And then on top of that, we have bechin's ruach, which is the seat of the emotions, which is where the heart is and the lungs. Higher than that would be the bechin's neshama, which is going to be in the mayach or in the brain. This is the intellectual. This is where the intellectual capability of the person is, because the truth is the intellect does trump over the emotions, because the intellect should trump the emotions. And then beyond that, there are 2 more bechinas of neshama. By the way, derech agav, neshama in this context is all 5 of them, even though neshama is one of them, so don't be confused by that. There's a reason why that is, why we call it all bechinas neshama, even though neshama is only one of the 5. But we're not going to go to that now. The 2 higher bechinas are going to be Chaya and Yechida. Chaya is the bechina and they're both called Makifim because they're not in the Adam. if you will. The chaya is sometimes termed the levushim. It's like lahadol. Imagine a person is wearing clothing, so the clothing on the person are not inside the person; they're outside the clothing. Sometimes we call them saras because they're like hairs that are kind of like in the person and have come out of the person. That's the first of the makifim. We call that a makav chayzer because that's something that went into the kli, but then came out of the kli, because the kli can only contain within it the naran, the nefesh, ruach, and the neshama. And then there's a fifth makav, a highest makav, which is makav yechida. The makav yechida we sometimes term the heicholos, or the room. It's like the or like, let's say when a person is walking outside, we know that dalal lama shaladim is koina, according to the Xeris Chazal. So therefore, the dalal lamas is the extension of his yechida, or in the room would be the extension of his yechida. What that represents is the makifim represent potential states of being, but not actual states of being. Because in order for a gili to occur, there has to be a keli. Because the way HaKadosh Baruch Hu built the olam is that if you just have or without a kli, then all you have is ein sof, because the or would be without en. There's nothing to be mitzamtzimid and nothing to be magvalit, and nothing to show it. It's just a blinding light, and nothing can be seen. But a kli is magval the or, and that allows the or to come to a gili and be understood and be recognized. The truth is, it's a very easy concept to understand, because it's like if think about, let's say, a shiur. I always like to say that most shiurim are basically hour-long shiurim are basically 5-minute vorts, because if you think about it, they really are. What it is that the Maggid shiur has to take this 5-minute vort, but he has to be mislavish it, if you will. He has to give mashalim. He has to give explanations. He has to break it down so that his audience can understand it. After it's all done, he could say it over in 5 minutes, and the people would understand it. Or if, let's say, people were holding on his madrega, he could say it over in 5 minutes, and it would be the same shiur that he was giving over to his audience in an hour. But it had to be broken up. They needed kalim. They couldn't take the or directly, because the or would be too much for them. So when you're mislavish the or when you're makasa the or, when you put the or into a kli, then the or can come to a gilui. So b'meila like this. The naran represent actual states in the adam, because these are in the kli. Masha enkein, the chaya represents a potential state, and certainly the yechida represents a potential state. The chaya is called a makav prati because that's the person's own potential state, meaning it's not now. What it is it's going to come. In fact, the name that we give to the makifim are eke. As opposed to the pneumium, the shame we give is havaya, because havaya is lashon hoiva, or now, because this is where the here and now exists. Whereas ek is a bechina ana is damin is galius, meaning I will be megala, but not now. So in other words, like imagine if let's say a certain masechta in Shas you have not learned yet. So since you haven't learned that masechta yet, that's going to be bechinas makif to you. Once you've learned that masechta, it's not makif anymore. What happened is your kli has grown, meaning your mayach has grown, Baruch Hashem, to incorporate that or which was previously makif. So what was previously outside of you is now inside of you. That's the pshat that la'asid, the tzaddikim will be sitting v'atzrasayim b'rashayim, and the crowns on their b'rashayim, in their heads, not on their heads, but in their heads, because what were previously crowns and makifim are now going to be inside. Whereas Yechida represents something which is totally beyond us and an absolute unity, which we Pasha don't have a shaykhus to, but it's out there waiting for us to try to achieve. But anyways, be that as it may, the nefesh and the ruach are the ikar, because even the bechinas neshama, which is pale on the nefesh and the ruach, right, is still connects the chaya to the lower part of the nefesh and the ruach. That's one of the reasons why the entire neshama is called al shem the neshama, because that's the middle bechina of these 5 bechinas. These 5 bechinas derech agav also parallel the Kutshal Yud and the Shem Havaya, and they also parallel the Ak and Asilas Bri Yitzira system, and they also parallel the 5 Partsufim. They're all just basically different ways of saying the same thing. So what we're saying now here is that these 2 bechinas of the bechina of Yosher and the bechina of Egulim, the Yegulim represent the bechinas nefesh, because they represent the lowest bechina, and the bechinas ruach, and the bechinas Yosher rather, represent the bechinas of ruach, and the ruach is pilal on the nefesh. Let's just finish up this paragraph now. Well, be'emes, back to the text. Ruva machriya shal divrei hazayar, einim is asking elabo b'chinas yosher belvad. Bein devar shal ak, bein devar shal alalom is abiyah. The truth is the majority of the memras in the Zayar are really dealing only in yosher. They're not dealing in egulim at all. Well, the reason why that is because ultimately, these farm are sifrei avoda, and they're basically telling us how exactly we can achieve a closeness with the Rebbeinu Shalom Kaviyachol, and what exactly our mitzvahs do, and conversely, lahavdil, what our averas do. So what's happening is that that's the bechina of yosher, that's the bechina of coming closer, or alternatively going far away, because like we said before, the yosher really is the bechina of Torah, coming into the Mokum Ponai. Mashikin, an eagle, definitionally, a circle, is everything is equidistant from the center of the circle. So you don't have really a bechina of mala and mata, but in yosher you would. So therefore, if these bechinas are really bechinas of, if the Zohar is a book of avodah, the mela, it would be dealing more with yosher than it would be with igulim. So let's just finish now. V'tzarech ata ladas, we have to know she'afal pi. Even though the Esther spheres of Ak are nichlal, the entire halal, because they encompass the entire halal, because they're the rotzain, remember, for everything that's going to come afterwards. Ein hein memolayis is kula, but they don't fill up the entire vacated space, meaning that there's going to be some space left over for all the other olamais to come. V'zeh ki igol malchus ta'ak, which was the 10th of the Asari Gulim. Shehua Igala Pinimi Masari Guliak, which is the most pinimius of all the 10 Guliak. The Sharba Mokapone. There's a vacant space within it itself. Let's for more creative things. Let's have and to be there. Be like kilo. If you would imagine, let's say draw a circle. Let's say a foot in diameter. So the first inch, right? You'll draw 10 little circles, but then within that, it's still vacant, because that's where all of Abiyah is going to be placed. That's how Kaviyachol we're going to represent this. Kikoli gule olam hanekudim v'alomas Abiyah, and we'll, Bezos Hashem Yisparach, later define what exactly olam hanekudim means, and the alomas of Abiyah will define more. Kulam eindim halal hanishar ba'avuram be'igal machus ta'ak. They're all going to be right within this vacated space itself that was left inside of the Malchus of Ak. So, in other words, just like the Eseri Gulim of Adam Kadmon are surrounded by the Or Ein Sof HaMakif, so too all the Alomas of Abiyah, right, which are the Alomas below Ak, will all be surrounded by the Malchus of Ak, and they will all be getting from the Malchus of Ak, if you will, in a certain sense. Okay, we'll stop here.